Yes, folks, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to KGX to the ZTV. Not the match reaction I was hoping for, but we move. We're here through the good times. We're here through the bad times. It's what makes being a fan and enjoying the good times. You have to go through a little bit of pain, a little bit of suffering, sounding like Ruben Emmer. And so you already know where this video is going to head. But before we start, make sure you hit those likes, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on. 2 videos in one day. Got a brace today. So shout out myself for that. But yeah, let's get into it. So Chelsea opened up the UCL campaign today, match day 1 of the expanded group stage, away to Bayern Munich. An incredibly tough fixture to start out with. Our welcome back to the Champions League football. Welcome back to the Tuesday, Wednesday football. And yeah, we showed why we still have a lot of work to do, why we didn't get enough work done in the summer. And we showed that, that despite the efforts in the Club World Cup and some of the decent performances that we've put in so far this year in the league, that there is still a gap in experience and a gap in know-how when it comes to us in clubs like Bayern Munich. And credit to Bayern Munich. I thought they played fairly decent. I didn't think that they were excellent or bopped us off the park, but they did what they had to do. They capitalized on our mistakes. And, we'll get into it. So the lineup was the same as the lineup in the Club World Cup final. That meant Gusto at right back. The normal 3, Chalobah, Tosin, Cucurella, Sanchez in goal. Midfield 3 of Enzo, Caicedo, and then Reece James in there. Palmer right side, Pedro through the middle, and then Neto on the left side. So no issues with the lineup. We've seen that lineup work fairly well versus some of the sides in the Club World Cup. Quality throughout. Decent goals at times throughout. But we were not on it today. And it's unfortunate too, because I thought we had started the game very well. And when I look at starts of the game for Chelsea, and especially for this young side, I look at the intensity. I look at the willingness to press, the closing down, the sharpness, the passing, whether it's got to be crisp, it's got to be quick, how we move the ball, the patterns of play, how we close down teams, how we press, and how we recover from transitions. And I thought for the first 15, 20 minutes, I thought we were very good. I thought we did a good job of taking the crowd out of the game, and the crowd was very, very live. I was, of course, doing a watch along with my boy Jimmy. Shout out the homie each and every time, yo, big up. But I had one ear into the crowd sound, and they were on it. But you expect that from a Bayern Munich crowd that's going to be pumped up. That's maybe not hitting on all cylinders yet, but a side that always supports very well. But like I said, we started well. We had an early chance, fell on a transition to Enzo. Thought it was a difficult chance. The defender, I think it might have been Limer, got back and ultimately got the block. Looking at it after the fact, and you could say maybe Enzo should probably do better, probably shouldn't be taking a touch on it. But that's a chance that's falling to a box crashing midfielder that's still learning his trade in there. And I'm not making excuses for it, but we've seen Enzo put those away in the past. I expect Enzo to put those away in the past. I would have expected him to hit it first time. He didn't. He still controlled it well. He still took it in, but ultimately the shot got blocked. And we moved, but ultimately from there, it looked like things started to kind of get sour a little bit and turn. And I don't like to blame the referee, because we see poor refereeing decisions week in and week out in the Premier League, so we should be used to it. But I thought he had an absolute howler. I'm not saying that the ref is the reason why we lost, but I thought there was a huge part in how some of the game's key moments unfolded, and how the referee sort of got things wrong. And you saw it from Bayern's first goal. Free kick just outside the box, wasn't a free kick, wasn't a foul on Caicedo. Kimmich puts his foot on the ball. Caicedo sweeps through. Yes, you can say that the action is a little aggressive, but it's Caicedo. He does that, so maybe it's a little bit of his reputation preceding him. But nonetheless, they call the foul. It's still a ways out, so it's not an opportunity, even though it's dead center in the middle of the pitch. it's still a shot. It's still a distance out that you wouldn't think would concern the keeper. And um, what happened next was something I've never seen in my 40 plus years of, or 30 plus years of watching football. And that is Joshua Kimmich attempting to play a pass that hits the referee. And maybe the referee thought that he was going to take a shot on goal, but get the hell out of the way. And instead of resuming a free kick or restarting that free kick from the spot, he does a quick drop ball and we don't adjust. They play the ball to the right. Olise gets matched up with João Pedro, who was running over frantically from being the left-sided defender in the wall. Olise beats João Pedro like you would expect him to beat any striker or any defender, to be honest with you, considering the quality that Olise has. He puts a ball across the box. We don't deal with it. Tosin, I think, tries to clear it, misses it. Sanchez is kind of caught in no man's land, doesn't get a hand to it. And ultimately, it goes off of Trevor for a known goal. And it's 1-0. And from there, sort of the tide kind of changed a little bit. And we were under the cosh, but we were still a little bit dangerous. We were creating opportunities on the counter, and you could kind of see what the game plan was. We had, I've seen a lot of folks, especially post-match, talk about how their midfield, ball-star midfield. And yeah, I thought their midfield did play better than ours. I thought they had the numbers game in there. I thought we were too spread out. We were caught in two minds, right? You could see that we were man marking high up the field. So when they did beat us or play around our press, we would have Enzo over here. We'd have Reece James up high. We'd have Caicedo low. So there wasn't really too much balance in there. So I thought we could have been a little bit better, and maybe that could have been different options there in the midfield. Maybe Santos with a little bit more legs than Enzo or Reece. But we were still getting our opportunities to hit them on the counter. We had some opportunities that we didn't take. Like I mentioned before, that Enzo one. There was another one that fell to Neto where he failed to get it on target. But for as good as Bayern were giving, and they had their opportunities, and overall I thought Sanchez actually played a pretty decent game. We were still dangerous on the counter. They were still very wary of us. And then the second goal happens. We have a giveaway. We don't see it because the Paramount feed, whoever they had, was generally terrible. We missed the beginning of the second goal, and we missed their entire third goal, which was just unforgivable from a broadcasting and production type of standpoint. Use the fucking picture-in-picture. Like, they do that all the time, and it's so annoying. But I digress. Second goal, we give the ball away dangerously near our near our own 18. Kane's on it. Caicedo puts in a challenge that I can see why they gave the penalty. In hindsight, I thought it should have went to VAR because you could see that Kane obviously does what Kane does and sort of exaggerated the contact. And look, I'm not blaming Kane. I've said this before about him. Any striker that's worth their grain of salt is going to embellish the contact, is going to go down there, because the risk, which is a yellow, it does not exceed the reward, which is a penalty. He does it, and then he gets the penalty, which was, I'll go back in a little bit and say it was a complete fuckery how it exactly happened, in terms of the referee waved it off. We start playing, we start getting the ball up the pitch, and then the referee calls it back because the linesman had flagged for a penalty. Look, I'm not too upset because it was ultimately a penalty, but at the same time, the referee's standing right there. He doesn't call it a penalty. He allows us to play forward, and then he brings it back. So look, I talked about the ref who was shit all game, Jonathan Tah, and we'll get to it a little bit after this, but Harry Kane steps up, does what he has to do. He's never going to miss that. Sends Sanchez the wrong way. No fault on Sanchez. Harry Kane's one of the best, if not the best, penalty taker in the world. They're up 2-0, and we've got a mountain to climb. But credit to the boys, they respond right away. We win the ball back. There's an off the ball tussle that we'll get into a little bit. But Palmer gets the ball sort of in the middle, probably about 10 yards before we, our midway, our halfway line, turns, plays a pass forward to Gusto. Gusto does a nice job, and I thought Gusto in the first half was really excellent. Was doing a really good job defensively, winning the ball back, was good in possession, was getting forward, was being a threat. Gets a nice assist back to Palmer. Palmer slots at the top left corner. We grab the ball. It's 2-1, and then in the mix of all of it, you can kind of see a lot of the Chelsea players weren't necessarily celebrating because João Pedro is down on the halfway line holding his head, and Neto runs back. And of course, shitty production again. We don't see what happened off the ball, but later we come to find out through Twitter clips and things like that, Jonathan Tah, who was booked on that play, gets a yellow, punches João Pedro or swings at João Pedro, hits him in the neck, hits him in the head, doesn't go to VAR, doesn't get reviewed, gets a yellow. So obviously, the referee knows that there's something that's going on. And to the ref's credit, it happened bang, bang. The focus was on the ball. I can sort of get that. But where is VAR to intervene and say, look, there's a VAR check for serious conduct? It doesn't happen. It's not the reason why we lost. But I'm just saying that game at 2-1 with us being a man up changes completely. Bayern sub off a player because that's a center back, and they sub off Tah at halftime. And that completely changes the dynamic of the game. But we weather the storm. We get into halftime 2-1, and we're thinking, all right, momentum's with us a little bit. We come out in the second half. We're moving it. We're opening it up a little bit, which is giving us chances, but it's also creating some chances on the other end, as it naturally does, right? If you're going to chase the game, that means you have to take risks. And if you take risks, you're going to have to live with the consequences of those risks. And it's we're punching, they're punching back. And ultimately 60th minute or so. And again, there was a corner. We get the ball, corner goes out for us for a goal kick. Sanchez plays it to Trev. Trev plays a pass into Gusto, who's hugging the right touchline. Gusto has a terrible first touch and then compounds his first touch with an even horrible second touch. Basically a back pass to Kane, who's all alone in our box, can't be offside because it comes off of Gusto and he's playing it directly back. Kane does what he does. If you want to say, what's a trademark Harry Kane finish, look at that third goal. Calmly slots it. I think he shoots it in between the legs of Tosin or Trev. And then Sanchez is unsighted, right? It tucks it right into the corner. Again, no fault of anybody other than Gusto. And like I said, Gusto had a very, very good game up until then. But like Gusto does, he's susceptible to those bozo moments. And when you make a bozo moment like that and it results in a goal, you realize the level of competition that we're at. And you realize it's not the Conference League anymore, where you can get away with things like that. It's not even the Premier League. The level is literally through the roof when it comes to the Champions League. You're away to Bayern Munich. You're in the Allianz. It's rocking. It's at nighttime. They've got a front three as good as almost anybody in Europe with Kane, Elise, and Luis Diaz. So when you make mistakes at that level, you get punished. And unfortunately, we made 3 mistakes and were punished 3 times. Now, there were some other areas that or opportunities that they had where Sanchez made a couple of good saves. I think Elise had one that was very similar to the Palmer chance at Brentford, where perfectly squared ball, he's got the whole net to shoot at. He doesn't. Robert Sanchez, to his credit, gets down, makes the save. And like I mentioned before, Sanchez was relatively calm. But it shows you, at this level, when you're rocking up to the Allianz and you've got a center back partnership of Tosin and Chalobah, it shows you the levels, and it shows you that the failure to prepare in the offseason means that we must prepare to fail in the now. And we didn't do enough in the summer. We didn't push on from the Club World Cup. We didn't upgrade the center backs, which I thought we should have done before. And I'm not blaming Trev or Tosin for this exact one, but you can see over the last few games, you can see the deficiencies and you can see where they're poor at. Trev had a numerous times where we're man marking and we're coming up to the halfway point, and he's getting either spun or he's coming in there reckless, and he's putting us under risk. we've seen it with Tosin as well. Although I thought Tosin, apart from a few areas here and there, was otherwise pretty fine. I thought his distribution building out from the back was fine. I just thought we were a little bit slow in build up. I thought that despite how good Enzo played against Brentford, I thought he looked a little bit off of it. Once the half started to settle, and maybe that's a fitness issue and things like that. I'd like to see Santos be trusted a little bit more and get a little bit more time. But I get it. Look, it's still super early in the season, and you know, I've calmed down a little bit since the match went down, and I've had moments to look at certain transitions and certain scenarios and key plays from the game. And like I said, I knew it was going to be tough, but at the same time, it's still concerning that we're making the same type of mistakes. And maybe it's just a quality issue. Maybe it's just a matter of not so much of how we set up. Again, like I thought our setup was okay. I thought Maresca overall was halfway decent. You could say maybe the subs came a little bit too late, and maybe we should have hooked Enzo off a little bit before that. But Enzo's got experience, big game experience. Oh, he's not going to, he's going to give Enzo a little bit longer of a leash than he is some of the younger players and the less experienced players. And I know Fernandez is still a little bit young, but he does have a lot of match experience. 3 years at Chelsea now, World Cup experience. He's in every Argentina squad and things like that. So, we're going to need him to sort of kick on a little bit, to pick it up. We're going to need, not only the GNA, but also the performances with it as well. I thought Caicedo was fairly decent. Thought he was on his own for a little bit of it. I didn't think Reece in the midfield was particularly great. I thought there's a couple of switches and things like that he overhit, but other than that, I didn't think that he was really too involved. Cucurella, I thought, did a fairly decent job on Elise. They did a pretty good job of doubling up on him. And for some reason, Neto was really off it in terms of his man marking and tracking. Garnacho was even worse when he came on, when it comes to the man marking and tracking and helping Cucurella. But I didn't think Elise particularly hurt us as much as a player of his quality could. But we move. I thought Pedro was fairly decent. I thought he was, taking a lot of shots, and I'm a little concerned for him long-term in his fitness. He's playing a lot of minutes. I think we're going to need to see some minutes from Guy just to kind of lessen the minutes and lessen the toll on João Pedro. I thought Palmer was fairly good overall. Who else? Like I said, mentioned Sanchez was pretty good. The subs, Garnacho. Look, you guys know how I feel about Garnacho. He's lively. I'll give him that. He makes himself a nuisance a little bit, but still, I was a little disappointed to see his lack of tracking back, and especially considering what happened at the weekend. Esteval, I don't think he didn't play enough to really warrant too much of a review. Santos, I thought, was pretty good. Should have really had an assist. Palmer's got to do a better job. 3-1. We got a goal back late, like the 88th minute, but ultimately got ruled out because he was offsides. Santos did a pretty good job of playing that pass. But again, it just shows for me that while there's a lot of potential with this squad, we really need to rein in some of the expectations. But at the same time, too, look, we know that we're breaking in a lot of new players, where it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience. It's going to take some time. It's going to be growing pains. I don't think any of the clubs have really started brightly so far, to the level of just putting a marker down and rubber stamping things. And again, Bayern Munich away, Champions League match day 1. What do you really expect from that? So, all in all, disappointing, but not overly surprising. Again, architects of our own downfall, gifts galore, Christmas settings. But we move. We take the positives from it. We learn from it. And then hopefully, we come back. I think it's Benfica next at home. I think it's Jose making his return to the bridge. That's going to be a must win. The weekend, Manchester United is going to be a much win. So we'll see. We'll see. But, make sure you guys hit those likes, hit that subscribe button. Let me know down in the comments who was your man of the match. For us on our side, I'd probably say Sanchez. I'd probably say, him. I thought there was a lot of 6 out of 10s, which isn't terrible, but not good enough to win at Bayern Munich. But let me know who your man of the match is. leave a comment. Let me know if what you guys thought of the lineup. Let me know what your expectations are for our upcoming match to Old Trafford. Yeah, and we'll see you at the next one.